What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Cabin Checks. And man, today I've got a topic that it's really been pulling at my heartstrings. Like it's really been occupying a lot of mental real estate over the past couple of days ever since this experience happened to me. And I really want to know your opinion on this. So if you find any value from this, be sure to share it with other people and be sure to leave a comment below because this is one that's really been making me think, and I want your opinion on it too. So here's what happened to me. I walked into the gym, and this gym that I walked into, this is just a couple of days ago, I walk in there and all the cardio equipment is right up front. And it's just two rows, one in front of the other, of treadmills, ellipticals, stair climbers, etc., etc. And so I walk in there, I jump on a treadmill, and I do my normal warm-up sequence. Usually I'll either run or walk a mile. If I walk, I'll go 10 incline, 3 miles an hour or so, and then if I run, I'll just go 7 or 8 miles an hour until I hit a mile. And this particular day, I decided to walk. And I'm going, and I'm warming up. And what's interesting about the way that this gym is laid out is that all of the televisions in the entire gym are all right there in front of the cardio equipment, which makes sense because you're probably not going to be watching TV if you're pushing 405 on the bench press. But if you're walking on a treadmill, then it makes a lot more sense to be entertained by watching TV as you go. And so I look up at the television screens, and there's probably 20 of them just in this little cardio section, and they're mounted up on the ceiling. And I look at them and I notice that there's only two types of programming that's being played. The first type is sports. Now, this is only a couple of days after the Super Bowl, and so most of the TVs had these sports programs on where they were recapping the Super Bowl. And what I thought was interesting was they only focused on the plays and the moments that would elicit the most emotional responses from the audience. And so, of course, if you watched the Super Bowl this year in 2023, you saw the Chiefs and the Eagles, and you saw that last minute hold that the Eagles had on the Chiefs. And I don't even remember who it was. I didn't watch the game, to be honest with you, but I saw all the highlights. And that put the Chiefs in field goal range. They kicked the field goal, they made it, they won because of that. And so that one play elicited so many emotional reactions from people, and that's what they kept going back to. That's what all the talk shows wanted to discuss. And I thought about it, and I said, isn't it strange how grown people can have so much mental real estate taken up by their sports teams? And I think what's happening is the organizations that control the different sports are tapping into a very natural human psychological desire, which is we want to feel like we are a part of a group, of a pack, right? We want to feel like we belong to a certain group. And so a lot of us start identifying with these sports teams. And because we identify with them and we feel like we share ownership in that, and what that team is doing and their successes and their failures, all of a sudden now we are emotionally invested in what happens with that sports team. And so all these different shows are on, and they're talking about all the biggest highlights, the most contentious plays, the most contentious calls by the referees. And so many people, I'm looking around while I'm on the treadmill, and all these people are just dialed in watching this programming. I said, man, that's really interesting. And then, of course, you look around and you think, man, this is a whole economic ecosystem, because how many people bought tickets to the game? How many people bought the jerseys? How many people bought the memorabilia? How many people have been watching on television for that game? And then the ad revenue from the advertisers that did the Super Bowl commercials. Like, you start to think about this, not to mention the owner of the team, the player contracts. There's such a massive ecosystem and economic engine that's behind all of this stuff. And you've got to imagine that the reason that so much money is poured into it is because it's captured the hearts and minds of America. Because so many people's attention is captured by sports. This is what influencers are just now figuring out, that if you can capture the attention of people, then you can control the direction and the flow of the money. And if you control the direction and the flow of the money, then you really control the people to a very large extent, because you can prevent them from moving and being fluid with their socioeconomic status. That's a whole other video. But the point is, it's a very emotional game. It's a very emotional, where we're grabbing at people's emotions when we're showing these sports highlights. But what I thought was interesting was that all of the televisions that were not tuned to sports programming were tuned to politics. And they had a couple TVs that were on Fox News and a couple of TVs that were on CNN. And I said, man, if you're not just completely engrossed and locked in with the sports stuff, you're probably engrossed and locked in with the political stuff. I said, isn't that interesting? Because I certainly know people on both sides of the political aisle, left, right, doesn't matter. But they play identity politics. And they're not really interested in hearing what other people have to say and being open-minded and willing to change their mind about certain issues. What they're interested in is a self-imposed confirmation bias. So if I'm on the right, I probably only watch Fox. If I'm on the left, I probably only watch CNN. And I'm emotionally invested because I have integrated these beliefs and philosophies and ideologies into my own self-concept, into my own self-worth. So I believe that because I believe X, Y, and Z about politics, about the government, about whatever it is, that makes me a good person. And so there's this strong emotional reaction when we think about politics. Even people who claim to be independent, most of the time, what they really mean is I've picked and chosen what I believe works for me and what I tend to believe in from both the left and the right, but I'm still going to fight for what I think and not try and change my mind. That's what most independents are really thinking like, right? And so I said, man, all of this programming that is in front of us right now, whether it's sports or politics, is meant to capture our attention. It's meant to elicit an emotional response. It is meant to keep us locked in and focused on all of this stuff, right? This external stuff, the sports, the politics, all this nonsense, right? And then what happened? Then a commercial came on. Then a commercial came on, and some giant billion-dollar company tried to interrupt that flow of attention and sell me something. And I said, man, isn't it strange how you're trying to sell me something so that you can get a dollar that didn't even exist 3 or 4 years ago, most likely? Because we know that over 50% of the money supply was printed since the year 2020. And so this dollar has no intrinsic value to it. There's no gold backing it. There's no hard asset that's behind it. It's literally a piece of paper that has gone through a particular production process in a printing press. And we have assigned it value, but it has no real tangible intrinsic value. But most of us work 40, 50, or 60 hours a week to go get a couple of those dollars and then go spend them on whatever the television has convinced us we need. And most of the time, what the television convinces us we need, or social media, or what have you, or our friends, or our influences, etc. What those things influence us to make us think that we need are other things that increase our perceived status. Isn't that crazy? We work all week to go make money that doesn't mean anything, that isn't real, to go impress people that we don't know or like. I saw people in the gym fully decked out head to toe, Lululemon, and Jordans on their feet, walking on the track. Why? Because you think that when somebody else looks at you, it's going to make them feel a type of way, and that feeling that you assume they're having is going to make you feel better about yourself in your own mind. I'm just trying to tell you what I observed. And so what was interesting to me is how our one thing that we have, because we only have one thing, and that's our consciousness. Because all the money, cars, houses, clothes, it all goes away. From ashes to ashes, it all goes away. It ain't gonna be here 100 years from now. I don't care who you are, how healthy you are, the one guarantee I can make you, if you're watching this video, whatever you got is not gonna be here in 100 years. Or the stuff might be, but it's gonna belong to somebody else. It ain't gonna belong to you in 100 years. And yet, we're not focused on being present. We're not focused on enjoying the moment. We're not focused on relationships. We're not focused on the people that we love and the people that we care about. We're not focused on creating memories and experiences. We're not focused on living life. We're focused on all this external stuff that doesn't make a difference. And the economy has created a process, a very intentional and deliberate systematic process to capture our attention. So if we want to say that all we really have is our own consciousness and ability to think freely and make our own decisions, to chart our own path as free-thinking human beings that are created in the image of God, if that is what we say that we really can call our own, can we really? Because most of our decisions are not made by us. Most of our decisions are made by our emotional attachment to our sports team, or our emotional attachment to politics, or our chemical and also emotional reaction to substances, right? Like here's the thing, if sports don't get you, the news will. If the sports and the news doesn't get you, then alcohol will. If sports, the news, and alcohol doesn't get you, then sex will get you. If sports, news, alcohol, and sex doesn't get you, then maybe drugs will get you. If sports, news, alcohol, well, what else did I go through? Sex and drugs don't get you, then money and greed will get you. Like, there's so many things that remove our power. The one thing that we have to think freely and to make our own decisions, to live our own lives as we believe that they should be led. We're the only creature that can have a vision of a life that we feel is worth living, is meaningful, and then do what is required to turn that vision into a reality. A dog can't do that, a cat can't do that, no other animal on the planet can do that but us. That's the only thing we got, because everything else goes away as soon as we check up out of here. And yet, all these different systems are taking that from us by influencing our decisions so that our decisions and our very thought process is not even our own. And to me, the immediate question that comes up is this simply a process of, what would you call it, entropy? Of natural equilibrium, right? Is this a process where we find things that work and it funnels up to the top, right? Because no matter it's the 80-20 principle, right? 80% of the results are done by 20% of the people. And it's actually, in reality, most of the time, much more of a inequitable distribution than that. It's usually more like 90-10 or even 95-5. But is this just one of those things where people started playing sports? It was a lot of fun. And because people are drawn to those team-based activities, because we want to feel like our identity is tied up in another group, that we want to feel like we belong to something, that we want to have a cause, and because most of us aren't courageous enough, just being honest, to go out there and start our own movement, our own cause, follow the beat of our own drum, we're not going to do that for ourselves. So we look at other people who are living their dreams, who are competing, who are in the arena, and we attach ourselves, our identity, our worth to them. That's why it's such an emotional attachment. So did that just work? And so many people, because it was just that entertaining, so many people started watching, and then it naturally grew into the economic conglomerate that it is now, and it just makes sense because that attracts a large number of people. That could be the case. Or I think it would be naive not to at least ask the question, was that an intentional and deliberate design? Are there some old dudes with gray hair in a room somewhere, along with the rest of the Illuminati members, that say, hey, I wonder if we design sports in such and such way, if we design the media system in such and such way, then we'll be able to capture the attention of the public, and 95% of the population won't be able to think for themselves and will not be able to live their own lives based on their own decisions, because we will control the inputs that they use to make their decisions, which in a roundabout way means that we control the outputs and we control the decisions themselves that the population is making. And that makes us in control, that makes them weak. I don't know. But you gotta ask the question, right? I mean, surely you gotta ask the question. So, I don't know. I think there's an argument to be made for both sides. I think that it's an interesting thought experiment nonetheless. But I also think that the only way to combat that, if you're listening to this so far and you're like, man, this sounds crazy, and I don't want to be caught up in that, then I think the only way to protect yourself from it is to truly live life on your own terms. I think that the only way to protect yourself from it is to rid yourself of as much distraction as possible, right? So many of us use social media, but we don't use it, it uses us. So how many of these distractions can you get rid of? Can you do a dopamine detox? Can you just get rid of all this junk that is clouding your mind and is dictating your decisions? Can you meditate? Can you free up that mental real estate and see what you think? Like, you don't even know what you think because you're so clouded by all this outside influence. You don't even know what you think. So I think we got to rid ourselves of distractions, right? Whatever that thing is for you that's got a firm hold on your mind, right? If it's social media. And I'm not even talking about, this is what's so amazing. I'm not talking about people who are addicted to social media. I'm not talking about people who are alcoholics. I'm not talking about people who have a gambling problem. I'm talking about everyday people who simply use these outlets as entertainment, but because of the level and duration of exposure to these different things, it has influenced the way that they think and make decisions. And so again, their decisions are not their own. They are the aggregate of their own mental processing combined with the influence that they have picked up from the external world. I'm not saying that everybody should go be a monk and have absolutely no external influence or distraction, but what I am saying is that it might be a good practice to rid yourself of some of these distractions, at least periodically, so that you can reset and know that you still have control over your own mind. That's what I think. I think the other thing that we have to do is begin to get ourselves uncomfortable, because a lot of these things that capture our attention, it's not just because it's entertaining, it is because it is comfortable. It is easy to sit there and watch TV because it's easier to get dopamine from that. It's easier to get dopamine from scrolling on social media than it is to do something productive that is actually going to generate that feeling and that emotion from within. It's hard to build something. It's hard to become somebody that is, and people are going to disagree with me on this, everybody is worthy of happiness, but you still have to work for it. Like, everybody's worthy of being happy and living a phenomenal life. Just because of who you are and the way that God made you, you are worthy of having a phenomenal life. That being said, nobody is just so worthy of it that it means that you don't have to work for that. Like, there's a lot of people who are unhappy by their own doing, but it's more comfortable to sit there and watch sports on television than it is to go to the gym and work out, so that you can actually have something to feel good about. You can feel good about yourself because you earned it, not because some self-help book told you that you should feel good about yourself just the way you are. No, you shouldn't, because you're not done yet. You haven't fulfilled your potential yet. You haven't helped all the people that you can help yet. You haven't influenced all the people that you can influence yet. So you shouldn't feel that good. You shouldn't feel bad, but you shouldn't feel like you're done either. And the more progress you make, the happier you're going to feel about yourself and the better you're going to feel about yourself. And it's easier to not go through what is required to build that version of you than it is to go through it and build that version of you. And that's why these things have a hold on us. So if you can make the commitment to every single day, just do one thing that is uncomfortable. Take a cold shower, run a mile, do 100 push-ups, get on the conference call that you don't want to get on. Like, write a page of the book that you've been stalling on writing. Whatever that thing is for you, just do it. If you want to get your mind back, if you want to get your own free will back, if you want to get your decision-making back. I think that's the only way to do it. I hope you got value out of this video. I hope I didn't freak you out too much. I know it's a little darker undertone to this one, but I sincerely hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that it made you think. This is not a happy motivational video, but I do hope that it makes you think and it makes you reevaluate some of the decisions that you make and the way that you live your life. If you got value from this, if this enlightened you in any way, please do me a favor. Share this with somebody else who's going to benefit from it. Share this with somebody else who's going to find value from it. Comment below your thoughts and opinions. I want to know what you think, because my mind's racing over here, but I want to know what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.